seriously, I'm here, you haven't seen me at any of your meetings probably in 10, 20, 25 years. I generally don't get involved in town politics. I haven't been involved in school district politics for the last 25 years because I was a school district moderator, and I made a point never to get involved in issues that related to the school board because of my role as moderator. And I have steadfastly tried to not get overly involved in town matters, in part because I felt that my status as a state representative perhaps would result in undue weight being given to my thoughts, disproportionately, unjustified, of course, disproportionately. I am here tonight very concerned about what I read in the Sunday news on Sunday about the police department budget in the context of what I have seen happen in the police department and their expenditures in recent years. I was on this committee for 3 years. Back in the 70s, I chaired it for 2 years. And by way of introduction, let me say, as chair for 2 years, at the time, David Cawley was the superintendent of the Hooksett School District. And at that time, we had some very serious problems with the Manchester School District about the cost of tuition to Manchester. It was fluctuating wildly, and it was literally an issue. And now, it doesn't sound like a lot of money now, but back then we were talking about $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 could be the spread between what Manchester said they were going to charge us when we were doing these kinds of hearings and what in fact they might have charged us 6 months later. We had an understanding with Mr. Cawley and the school board back when I was chair, and this understanding was this: we'll give you what you asked for because you may need it, on one condition, that you don't spend it on anything else. And if the Manchester School District does not hike the tuition to the level where you have to spend that $400,000 or $500,000, you turn it back to the taxpayers. That deal was honored. In the 3 years that we had it, the school district got the money in their budget. If they needed it, they had it to spend. They never needed it. They turned it back every year. There is something wrong from my observations, and I'm only going by press reports. And since I know Mr. O'Brien, I'm going to assume the reports are overwhelmingly accurate, but there may be some mistakes, and I will certainly defer on that account. There's something wrong when, for the 2 years in a row, the police department somehow finds a ton of money. Now, $43,000 for a van may not sound like a lot of money. It's a lot of money to me. That's twice as much money I spend to buy my own car. Or some more money that's floating in the budget to put up a granite sign. I forget what the dollar figure was on that amount. That somehow the department is getting so much in excess money that this money is just sloshing around in the budget, that they can spend it on these things which have not come to you for review and approval, have not come to taxpayers for their review and approval. That is just not right. And I'm going to ask you and suggest to you one of two options. The first option is what we did with the school district back in the old days. And they were old days, and I think probably our total budget then was $3.5 million, around what the police department's budget is this year. And that is, if you're going to fund anticipated costs that aren't on the ground, boots on the ground, current costs, get a promise and a commitment from the police commission that that money will not be spent for any other purpose, period. That won't bind them. You can't bind them not to move money between line items. But by God, if they make that promise and they break it to you, they're going to know what the consequences are going to be, and you know what authority and power you will have in the future. Okay? Secondly, you may want to think of a different proposition, and that is to look at the police department needs right now and say, we're going to give you the money that you can spend for boots on the ground right now and not one penny more. And what that means, if I read correctly, we got 23 officers, you fund 23 officers, not one more. You need to pay for police cruisers and gas, you pay for the gas for whatever cruisers you have, not one penny more. I don't know I saw the rationale or the explanation for purchasing this van in the newspaper. I don't know if it accurately states it or not. But I got to tell you, if it was based on rumors about the Hooksett District Court closing, the chief knows how to call me. He called me on the police commission vote. He knows my home phone number and said, Dave, is this going down? Is it possible? And I would have told him, no, it's not a chance in the world. I was hoping to be here in order to give you a timeline about when these conversations about possible court closings occurred in the context of when this van was purchased. I would like very much to have the information as to when the van was purchased, and I will fill in the timeline for when any discussion about the Hooksett District Court came up. But I rather suspect, off the top of my head, that they are disconnected. And there's not a rational connection between any discussion about the Hooksett Court and when this van was purchased. I don't remember any serious discussion in Concord about the Hooksett District Court ever being closed. I know it came up at one very brief time. I think the police department budget is out of control. Not because you folks aren't trying to do your jobs, but because there's just too much money that's been given to the police department on a whim and a promise. And I would hope that you seriously look at the budget, cut it to the bare bones. There is absolutely no reason why public employees of the town of Hooksett should look to get a 2% increase in pay this year when, as I understand it, they got a 2% in June, and when I don't know how many people in this town are hurting, are delinquent in their property taxes, are without a job that they had 2 years, a year and a half ago. They're not only can't keep up with what they're making, they're not making half of what they were making before the economy tanked. It's your decision. Those are my comments. I will get you the information on the Hooksett District Court. If I get the information about the purchase of the van, we can tie those two together. I'll see that you get that documentation for your next meeting. I think this budget needs a real hard look and a big axe. Thank you.
Thank you very much.